The summer travel season is nearly here, which means millions of people will be heading for national parks and national forests. As it turns out, a few of them won't be coming back.
Each year, hundreds of people are reported missing in our parks and forests. Most are eventually found, but there's a smaller category of cases that never get solved, including a few close to home. The I-Team's George Knapp is here with the story. George.
It's not a revelation to say that people get lost out in the wilderness or in forest areas. We're talking about a different kind of mystery, though. Disappearances that are not caused by predator attacks or criminals hiding out there in the woods or just bad luck. A former cop has put together hundreds of case files regarding clusters of missing persons in national parks where the circumstances are flat out strange. But don't expect any answers from the Park Service.
At the end of the night, I was staying in a motel off the government or off the Park Service land, and get a knock on the door.
The person who confided in law enforcement veteran David Paulides was a government employee who told one heck of a story about people who vanish in national parks, places like Yosemite, but also national forests, including the Toyabe, west of Las Vegas. In the years since the knock at the door, Paulides has scoured small-town newspaper archives and pestered federal agencies for records. He found so many cases of missing people that a planned book became two, filled with more than 400 cases of people who went into national parks but never came out.
People disappear in the wilds all the time, and we're talking about something different. These were unusual things that don't make sense, that happen to cluster together in 3 to 4, sometimes as many as 20, 30 people missing at one location.
The individual cases are strange enough, Paulides says, but stranger still were the reactions of federal agencies when he asked for public records.
And when we FOIA'd them, we got a response back that they don't keep any lists of missing people.
The response was not only no, but hell no, he says. So he began putting his own list together and discovered what appears to be nearly 30 clusters of disappearances in national parks and forests, cases which meet a narrow set of odd characteristics. The people who vanish often do so right under the noses of others, in many cases of kids, their parents' noses.
Being parents and being responsible people, we understand there's no way my son or daughter wouldn't know the way back from being just down the road getting the ball.
But it happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
The missing defy logic. They hike uphill, for instance, often steep climbs. Children as young as 2 or 3 are found a day or two later many miles away and over mountain ranges.
Some kids are found in phenomenal distances away that would make no logical sense to any parent.
Weird things happen to their clothing. The missing often shed their clothes right away, even in bad weather. Clothes are found sometimes neatly folded, but not the people.
The ranger described to me, if you were standing straight up and you just had your shirt or just had your pants on and you melted directly into your pants, that's what it looked like to him. The pants were laying on the ground in a very neat pile.
The missing defy normal search and rescue practices. Bodies are found in places that are all but inaccessible, or they're found in the open, in areas that were repeatedly searched earlier. Bloodhounds or other tracker dogs are often befuddled.
If the dog can't find a scent, that's a red flag. If a dog, a canine dog, a trained dog, is put on the scent at the point last seen, and it lays down and it doesn't want to track anymore, red flag. And that happens more than you think.
Nevada doesn't have a major cluster, but it has plenty of cases. Children who vanished around Lake Tahoe, in the center of the state near Tonopah, and at Mount Charleston. In 1966, 6-year-old Larry Jeffrey of Henderson disappeared while playing with his 2 brothers, setting off a massive 16-day search by as many as 1,000 men. Former Sheriff Ralph Lamb remembers it clearly.
Walked away from camp. Never did hear from him, never did see him, never did find him. We had hundreds of people there working, almost shoulder to shoulder.
There's no large predators per se. So we can't worry about mammals taking him. And he was in a fairly remote area where there's no vehicular access, so there's no car abduction. This boy just walked into oblivion. And in an age where you have aircraft up looking for the boy, you have 800 people scouring the mountain.
You should be able to find him.
That coupled with, if he was deceased, part of that ongoing effort is bringing in cadaver dogs. The odor coming off the body, they should have found that. They didn't.
Other aspects of this mystery are even more bizarre, though difficult to explain in just a couple of minutes. Example, many of the vanished who were found alive are kids too young to speak, or kids who can't communicate because of disabilities. Some who are found alive say they can't remember what happened to them. In his books, David Paulides reports on why some obvious explanations simply don't apply here, but he stops short of giving his own theory or explanation. Paulides says he doesn't want to scare people away from visiting parks, but thinks people need to be made aware. A month ago, we asked the Park Service and the Forest Service for their lists of local missing persons cases. Still waiting. We have links and more information about all this stuff on our website. Check it out.
Hundreds of thousands of people visit national parks each year. But you might not realize that a number of those people go missing.
Yep, that's the focus of a brand new book. It's called Missing 411. Retired police officer David Paulides is here. He logged more than 7,000 hours to investigate the disappearances of 411 people from national parks. Good morning, David. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
So 7 years it took you to research all of this. And when first thing I saw in this book we were looking at, and she read a good portion of it, I was able to skim it, the first thing that jumped out to me was clusters. What exactly does that mean when it comes to this book here?
So during the research of finding missing people that disappeared in the rural areas of North America, including Canada, we found that there were 28 different clusters of missing people, geographical clusters, that were never talked about and never known before. And that was a highly unusual find on our part.
Was it something it wasn't talked about because no one had ever really discovered the relationship between all of the disappearances, and you kind of found that there were these clusters that had something in common?
There isn't a lot of statistical data or a lot of public data that's available on missing people, especially historical data that maybe goes back 100 years. And putting the pieces together to see that the clusters come together and there is historical significance to it is something you don't hear about. We didn't understand it when we started.
I was so surprised to find out that one of the longest list of people missing is actually from Yosemite, right? For the western region, in fact. And it's so close to us. And I was just there in January. Hard to believe. And you say that it's actually been difficult to get some information about the missing cases.
So when we started the project, we understood that the National Park System has a large law enforcement presence. And law enforcement is known to keeping a lot of data. Missing people, homicides, robbery, etc. Well, so we attempted to get information from them through the use of Freedom of Information Act. And we filed dozens of Freedom of Information Act requests for this data. We got information back that they didn't keep lists of missing people, locally at Yosemite or at any other national park, and at a national level. And when we requested the data, the national parks came back and stated that they were going to charge us $34,000 for a list of missing people from Yosemite, and they wanted $1.4 million for a list of missing people nationally. And they stated that they just don't keep that data.
That's kind of shocking because it would seem to me like it makes sense that a national park of this size would be probably the first place where people would go missing. You would need that information. But no, not so much.
I think that they have the information. They don't want the public to know the information at this point. And we work with guys that are heads of large law enforcement departments in the United States. And their statement to me was, these people are not stupid. Yeah. They understand the need to keep this information. They just don't want to give it up at this point.
Exactly.
And you said, I was reading in the beginning here, that you actually, this all started just a conversation that you had with the ranger several years back.
Several years ago, about 3.5, 4 years ago, a ranger came up to me and said, hey, there's some disappearances at several parks I've worked at. And I think somebody needs to take a hard look at it because when the people disappear, there's a lot of publicity on the front end.
Right.
Soon after they disappear, you don't hear anything. There are some young kids under 10 years old that are missing from national parks. You never hear about them. Once they're gone, they're gone. They don't give them a lot of publicity. And it's a very disturbing fact.
It is indeed. And you not only give lists, but you also give pictures
and identities of all these people.
Unbelievable. And again, you can all find this Missing 411, the Western United States and Canada.
And hopefully we can use some of the information from this book to eventually get to the point where we're able to find ways to protect people more. Like your book doesn't do that, but the information that's in this book can help lead to that.
Walk in pairs, keep your friends close, keep your kids very close.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
David, thanks so much for being here this morning. We appreciate
Thank you very much.
that.
A lot of hard work came to fruition.
Iroquois lore speaks of the Genasqua, a stone giant with rock-hard skin that preyed on Native American villages.
They would attack a village and kill everyone and eat them. They would have like a communal feast on the victims.
Although the Genasqua has a very different temperament than its Sasquatch cousin, the two have remarkably similar physical characteristics. Eyewitnesses have described the creature as a 7 to 8 foot tall, gray-colored, overgrown monkey with a humanoid simian face. The bulk of evidence showing the existence of this elusive creature comes from plaster casts of found footprints reaching 18 inches long. And for hikers and outdoorsmen across North America, Genasqua encounters have become more and more commonplace.
We locked eyes. I looked into his eyes. It looked kind of red. Then it got up on 2 legs and it just ran. It was just one of those moments, kind of like that'd be like on the X-Files or something.
And for those who find themselves face to face with this bloodthirsty creature, the end result can be devastating.
Genasqua killed their prey by basically twisting their head to the point of decapitating the victim. They literally twist the head right off the body.
Well, the Genasqua is like a very hairy creature, similar to a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch or a Yeti. The one main difference, though, is its actual skin, which has a very hard, slate, stone-like appearance, which most people feel is from the Genasqua rolling around in the sand and the dirt very regularly. The skin almost takes on an armor-like appearance. It appears like it's basically made out of stone. There's a very strong odor associated with the Genasqua. You know, there's no showers in the forest, so unfortunately these creatures and beasts smell very horrible, and there's some accounts of it sort of smelling like a mixture between a skunk and a rotting corpse.
The origin of this odor is 2 things. One is smegma, and the other is from their armpits. When they feel threatened, they exude an incredibly powerful and noxious odor from their armpits, as gorillas do. And the stench is really unbelievable, unmistakable.
I know that Indian people believe that he's a brother, and that's how they view him. And as an anthropologist, what I study is the culture that holds this animal in high regard in many different forms. And so seeing Bigfoot through their eyes is where the anthropology comes from, where you're not judgmental, you're not trying to make their stories fit my view of the world. I want to see it through their eyes and how they've had a relationship with this animal or this brother for 10,000 years, if not longer. And what can those stories tell us about that relationship and what it is and what he is and what can he do?
Well, I think that brings me to a core question I had when I was reading about your book, Giants, Cannibals, and Monsters, is that there are some native traditions that think of Sasquatch as a cannibal, and I thought that was interesting because that would have to, by definition, would put Bigfoot in the same category as us, because otherwise it wouldn't be a cannibal.